Welcome. My name is Ana Mateos, and I'm going to present, together with my colleague Diana Zambelloni, the first discussion of the morning. For it, we have Elisa Valero, joining from Granada, and Angela Deuber from Zurich. For those who couldn't go through the bios, we're going to do a short presentation about them. So I'll start with Angela Deuber. She believes in beauty and has always sought for it, trying to bring it closer to people. Deuber's work is characterized by strong material and tectonic appearance, and she uses this material coherence to blur the physical boundaries of space. She relies on permanent materials and uses them to express a sculptural presence as well as to create enduring and timeless constructions.
Good morning, Paulo. Thank you for this very beautiful introduction. A holistic approach. All things are delicately interconnected. The work of art by Jenny Holzer shows the beauty of architecture, namely that if we think and build architecture holistically, a fully thought out, delicately interconnected architecture is possible, which is thought through to the end. The all-embracing basic thought was then consistently implemented. Changes, additions, or omissions are no longer possible or necessary. Holistically thought architecture includes a rule allowing to break up a rigid structure, adapting it to different circumstances. I will talk to you now about the components of my holistic approach. Understand retrospectively how something was done. Component 1. The work of art by Lisha Pape shows the construction to the ground with nails. We can see how it is built. To understand retrospectively how something was made, we have to think very pragmatically about architecture. In this example, we can understand how it was joined. Lisha Pape attaches the threads to the floors with nails, being part of a bigger sculpture. Applied to architecture, this means that we can see how something was built. It enables us as viewers to understand retrospectively what the thought behind the work of architecture is. The primary school in Thal, you can see retrospectively how it was made in the form of the walls, for example, the shape of the formwork panels in the concrete, the side joints of the brick, the horizontal joints of the brick, the polished pebbles in the floor. Component 2, physical presence. Lisha Pape's nails, we've seen before, are part of a larger structure, columns of threads. Holistic architecture means that the elements defining the space have a certain physical presence and strength. Lisha Pape arranged these threads three-dimensionally in space. The threads arranged in a square lead inclined to the ceiling, illuminated from above. The column of threads are elements. They are about 5 meters high. There are around 20 of these elements in the room, and they trigger a strong physicality, even though they are so filigree. It's important that buildings ultimately create an identity that we can name, and we can only name something that we can understand for the most part. In the medieval house in Stolz, Switzerland, I built, you see here the column in the center of the image, the physical presence of the column in the roof. The roof, the whole building rests formally on this column. It is the element in the building that stands on the lower forearm structure, and it manifests the design through thought physically as well as spatially and statically. The supporting structure, component 3, mangrove on stilts. The overall structure also includes the supporting structure, the pure static. In buildings, we ideally design the structure. It's interdependent, means the statics have been thought through from the foundation to the roof and are not over or not even under determined. Perhaps the circulation is also part of this system. Perhaps it's part of the overall spatial structure. Here in the primary school, you see as an example the building structure. It's the same on all sides and it's built according to a simple rule. The balcony layer is divided at the corners and in the middle by 3 slender columns and connected to the inner load-bearing structure via supports. Thanks to the alternating position of the supports outside and inside, the wall triangles appear to be hanging from the ceiling when viewed from the outside. In addition, there is an optical doubling of the span, which makes the dimensions of the in situ concrete appear even slimmer. The mutual dependency of the outer and inner concrete facade manifests itself in this way. The result is a spatial and structural unit that can be read. The material, component 4. Developing a project from a material as part of the whole. We see here a green space in Tbilisi. The wooden veranda has been designed very regularly around an inner courtyard. The regular arrangement of the columns can create a spatial phenomenon. A fragmentary space that is part of the holistic structure. The square space around the inner courtyard is implied. At the end of the loggia, we are part of the environment, part of something larger. Thinking holistically allows us to work with the fragment, with a part of it. Only with this wooden construction, one can carve such fine shapes. There is no better material than wooden fibers, or the plates on the capital of the column that were added and layered. It is a typical wooden construction also because it does not have large spans. The span between the individual supports is approximately 3 to 4 meters. The material here in the school building in Thal allows us a maxing of the spans. Only with concrete this is possible. It leads to an appearance of a filigree and in the same time a massive structure. In a different material, for example, brick or wood, it would be a different form as a result. The material is form generating. Flexibility, component 5. The Palazzo della Ragione in Padua has changed over the centuries. It was added on, rebuilt, walls were removed, market halls were built in, loggias were placed in front of it. The building can be used for centuries. It is long-lasting. It creates identity, shapes the city, and in this sense offers sustainability. The design creates persistence and identity that is extremely flexible. It meets future requirements for the durability of the construction for generations and allows modifications and conversions with an emphasis on aesthetic and functional durability. Seen from the other timeline, the flexibility. Remodeling and increasing the value of the medieval house in Stolz, sometimes striking interventions and the protection of historical buildings are considered difficult to reconcile. But the remodeling of this listed building proves that merging measures can even strengthen vulnerable buildings. Component 6. Space defined by elements, space structure, or the spatial system. There are many standards, requirements, and laws to be met. There are sometimes too many and not much space left. We can concentrate on the elements that define the space, for example, stairs, walls, columns, ceilings, and or on designing a room structure with the help of the circulation. In this house, different layers of time stand side by side and complement each other. Breaks and overlaps are emphasized as qualities and not devalued as signs of inconsistency. In times when the pressure to deal with the historical valuable existing buildings is high, due to the needs for redensification, strategies like these are future-oriented when it comes to remodeling. The double staircase in Stulz manifests the design thought of the infinite space system. The thought to build a labyrinthian whole implies a massive and absorbing material. Overall, the inspiration from nature. One can imagine a holistic building in such a way that, depending on the program, the location, the material, it contains a kind of a code. One can also say that depending on different parameters, the form of the building develops differently. Setting up a building on a slope, the result is a different shape than in the flat landscape. Being open to it means that we don't have to design many different ideas. The basic inspiration automatically and ultimately leads to the shape of the building. Remember the first slide, the work of art by Lisha Pape, we need to find the obvious solution to each question. Inspired by nature. The Bayard Contic building by Louis Sullivan consists of an inner steel structure and a thin, Oneric curtain wall facade in terracotta. In the last 120 years, it has made many adaptations possible. At the same time, it shapes the cityscape and creates identity with a graceful facade characterized by weight and thickness inspired by nature. Overall, beauty. Wholeness also includes an incredible wealth of beauty. Architecture has to be so beautiful that it's almost unbearable. Everything is made in the same way, has the same thought, and is subject to the same basic inspiration. We can accept that it is not completely explainable why something is so beautiful. But I have to think for myself the most beautiful possible and transform the still immature new to work out an achievement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela.